Is a North Dakota State move to FBS closer than ever? Let's talk about it.
The college football realignment carousel is always spinning, so we're back on the Big Mountain to give you an update.
Hey, welcome back to the Big Mountain. I'm JY. This is my good friend Steve. Steve, something we haven't talked about much here over the past few months, realignment. But over the past few weeks, I will tell you, smoke is starting to come yet again out of North Dakota State and a possible move to FBS. I want to go over kind of what's been put out there over the last 2 weeks, kind of a couple different reportings. And then, of course, we'll give our opinion. I did reach out to my two sources to see if they have been hearing anything. But let's just lay the groundwork here first. So back on November 25th, it was announced that current Bison head coach Tim Perasek is going to continue there. He reached a 7-year contract extension. And it was reported by ESPN's Pete Thamel that this new contract would be a significant raise in pay, as well as additional staff money and more program resources. So that was kind of the first thing that people went, oh, look, we're getting to keep him. Of course, this came shortly after it was reported that he had traveled to Corvallis to meet with Oregon State. I will say Mike McFeely stated in a recent article that he was actually told that Perasek actually got a job offer from an FBS school that he turned down. Now, they didn't name who's the university or anything like that. I mean, we know he traveled to Corvallis. I'm guessing maybe Colorado State had some interest, but that's speculation. But McFeely said that he knows was told that Perasek turned down an FBS job. McFeely also stated that North Dakota State University and the Mountain West are, quote, playing footsie again, is the way he termed that, unquote. He stated that he has not had any success getting any other information from anyone other than apparently something is going on yet again. Dom Izzo on his Hot Mic show earlier this week stated, quote, there is some FBS chatter out there. I don't know what conference, but there is something renewed that's happened over the past 2 weeks. Jeff Kolpak on his show responded with, I agree, as in I'm hearing the same types of things. Dom also pointed out that when he interviewed Coach Perasek, Coach didn't deny the fact that it wasn't happening. He just said, basically he didn't know enough to comment on it, which is typical for what a coach would say, whether or not there's something going on or not. Dom Izzo kind of took it down the path to say, well, he didn't deny it, so maybe something's happening. I think we're maybe connecting dots there that maybe shouldn't be connected, but hey, it is what it is. We all have our opinions, and I appreciate Dom Izzo and all the information he puts out. He has tons of great interviews. We're going to get to another one that he had as well. Coach did state in the interview with Dom Izzo that he knows in his heart that someday North Dakota State is going to be going to FBS. He said that he, quote, would hate to be on another sideline watching someone else at North Dakota State University as they move up, unquote. He said that there is a lot of conversation and conjecture on those things, and he doesn't have a comment at this time about that. North Dakota State Athletic Director Mac Larson also spoke with Dom Izzo on Tuesday. A.D. Larson stated that they look very much like an FBS program right now in his eyes, and that their goals haven't changed. They still want to compete at the highest level. That is kind of the AD 101 response when we're talking about conference realignment. So that's what you'll hear from a lot of ADs. He did say that he does think that there are a number of realignments that are going to happen, and North Dakota State has to be prepared as best they can. So A.D. Larson thinks more realignment is coming fairly soon. I'm sure over this offseason we'll have a whole nother wave of it, maybe including the Bison. Dom said he thinks that things feel different right now. He's a guy that kind of has his ears on the ground. He's poking things, trying to come up with some stuff in terms of the smoke, kind of the winds behind these rumors. And he said he's giving this a 65% chance, so 2/3 chance, that the Bison are in FBS by 2025. 27. He just said things kind of seem a little different right now, Steve. So I want to hear from you on this, but before I do that, let me get to who I kind of talked to. Like, where's the reality? You know, I laid the groundwork. First, as our dwellers know, those that have been following us, I have had North Dakota State and Tarleton State on the top of my list. If and when the Mountain West chooses to expand, I still think that's the case. You know, we haven't really brought any updates to that because there's not an update. It's still the same way that as I've seen it for the last 6 to 8 months, and I've been telling all of our viewers that, and that hasn't changed, and I think they would be 2 great additions. I did reach out to 2 of my sources, and again, these are high-level sources within universities and athletic departments and things like that. These aren't other reporters or anything like that. So I said, hey, you know, I'm seeing some smoke. I'm seeing people connect some of the dots. My top source here, one source said that, yes, they've also seen the rumors, but they said as of right now, they'd be pretty skeptical that anything really is happening right now. Maybe a little bit of a, hey, are you interested? Yeah, we're still interested, but nothing more than that. They said they'd be pretty skeptical about it. And they didn't really give me any details other than just saying timing just doesn't seem to be quite right yet. My other source stated that it's something to continue to monitor, but they also were skeptical if anything was kind of imminent within the next, month or two. We'll wait and see. I mean, we've seen how some of this stuff has happened very, very quietly. UC Davis came out of absolutely nowhere. There was no smoke around them, and that happened. NIU, you and I were following quite a while. I was very confident it was going to happen, and it eventually did. And these things can take time, especially when you're talking about an FCS program moving to FBS. It's got to be the right time and the right fit, for both sides here. So, unfortunately, I know there's more smoke and the rumors are going up. My sources are just kind of saying like, hey, be skeptical right now. Didn't say no, but they certainly weren't saying, yeah, something's afoot either, Steve. So I spent a lot of time there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to start with one of the last things that you talked about how we've seen things where they're just kind of bubbling on the burner.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they come through. And we had A.D. Frazier on. We've had him on a few times.
Yes.
And he talked about that. I think the last time we had him on was how it was, it was something that was there. There were like, some talks going on, but nothing serious until all of a sudden,
yes,
right at the end, it just all came together really quickly. And so that's how a lot of these things work.
Yep.
They're just kind of there. There's preliminary conversations, but it's not really anything, maybe just a little bit of smoke until suddenly it is.
Right.
And you may see that scenario. Like you mentioned, both of us, we've been on both North Dakota State and Tarleton as what we thought were the 2 best candidates right now for the Mountain West. Obviously, there's some other candidates who are interested and have been brought up and stuff, but, and maybe like a South Dakota State might go with North Dakota State. We'll see. But right now, it seems like the smoke is all over North Dakota State.
Sure.
And, this shouldn't be any shock. I have said before, I think they would be a great addition. I think they'd be competitive in the Mountain West right away. For me, I still come back to, and I think you agree, there's probably not going to be major moves until they get their legal dispute settled with the PAC and get all that done, kind of get it clean and tidy. And then we may see stuff move quickly.
Yeah.
So it makes total sense that maybe the Mountain West is just keeping those feelers open,
right?
Letting them know, there's a possibility, because then North Dakota State can prepare, which they've already been doing, but they can continue to prepare. Now, the other thing I want to go back to is their head coach in that extension.
Yep.
As I've followed kind of the national coaching carousel as people have moved around, his name had just kept coming up.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the obvious ones, Oregon State, and maybe Colorado State.
Right.
But I mean, he almost every opening I would read, not maybe the top tier, like a LSU or something, but at least half the openings I would read his name mentioned as like another additional person to think about.
Yeah.
So it was obvious that people were looking at him. So I think it's good that they were able to lock him down. I think that was very smart. And I like his quotes. If you're hoping North Dakota State moves up to FBS, you got to like both his decisions and then the quotes that came along with it.
Yeah.
You know, he feels like they are going to move up.
Yeah.
He wants to be there when they do it. Because honestly, if he really wanted to push to get, you know, just himself to get a coaching job in FBS, I think he would be able to do it.
Yeah.
So he's hanging around. He thinks it's a possibility. He must think it's on the horizon, at least maybe within this contract term.
Sure.
And, you know, I think 2027 was mentioned there by your...
Yes.
Yeah, the one guy.
Dom Izzo mentioned 27. Yeah.
I mean, that definitely could be. You know, we'll see when the legal dispute is settled.
Right.
And then also, I think there was quotes in there about multiple realignments coming.
Yep.
As we've talked about, most likely that's going to be closer to 2030, 2031, if you're looking for something to start a chain of dominoes. Mm-hmm. We may not have to wait that long if the legal dispute gets settled, but that could be something that could start a whole chain of events. Because, I mean, unfortunately, for like Mountain West could lose another team or two.
Sure.
You know, and if there's a big domino effect. So, anyways, I would have them next season in the Mountain West if we could.
Yeah.
I think they'll be competitive right away. I like it. Same way with Tarleton State. But it is kind of a good thing to hear that there's some smoke going on.
Yeah, I agree, and I want to go back to some of what you said there. You mentioned A.D. Frazier, and we've heard this from some others as well, where, you know, they've got it kind of on the burner, but, you know, as soon as, you know, both sides are ready, it can happen pretty quick. And you're hearing that from A.D. Larson, too, and he said it before, but, you know, basically we want to be prepared so when the time does come, we're ready to go. We've heard that from Tarleton State. Like, we're doing our thing. We're going to be prepared. When they give us the checklist and say, are you ready? We can say, yep, we check all those boxes. We're ready to go. So that's kind of where these schools are at. Like I said, it does take two to tango, so to speak, to have that happen. And yeah, you know, I think this all really started with the coaches. At least that's where I think the rumors and the smoke started, and it's kind of built since then.
Yeah.
But when the coach got his new contract, some of the verbiage that was around that, knowing he was looking out at FBS, the statement saying, "Hey, if they're going to move, I want to be the coach to be here when they move." And I think a lot of people maybe read into that maybe a bit more than what he was saying. I mean, he was clear. He loves North Dakota State.
Yeah.
He wants to stay there. And you know, so it's hard to say whether or not there was a hint of something going on there. Or he's just like, hey, man, I don't want to go anywhere right now. I'm pretty happy where I'm at. And I'll just also will say, I mean, I'm being told the boosters really, you know, stepped up here because they probably could have or would have lost him.
Right.
They didn't want to lose him. He didn't necessarily want to go, but hey, money does talk sometimes.
Yep.
So the boosters kind of stepped in and said, hey, yeah, we're going to pay you more. We're going to help out with staffing. We're going to help out with some of this other stuff to keep him more so than it is we're ready now to move to FBS. This was maybe more so just kind of holding serve amongst everything that's going on right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, and I was just going to say he's on top of the. I mean, even if he has an inkling that at some point he wants to be in FBS and have this team in FBS or whatever, he's still on top of the world right now.
Yeah.
Like he got this nice raise. They're going to continue to have success. He can just continue to win national championships there. And you know, if the FBS invite comes, it comes. If he gets to the end of his contract and he's still winning national championships, he'll have some options available to him. And at that point, if it hasn't happened yet, then it is what it is.
Right.
So he can, you know, be on top of the world, be at a place that he loves, making more money.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no bad for him in this.
It's all win there for sure. So, all right. Well, we had to bring you an update on it. I apologize that the sources that we have didn't really have a lot to add to it other than just, hey, remain skeptical at this point. Not sure the timing's really working out, but as Steve said, and you said it perfectly, Steve, when both sides are ready to go, it can happen very quickly. So with that, hey, thank you guys for watching this. Of course, we're going to be picking all of the bowl games this year, and I'm following the FCS playoffs, going to be doing some updates with that as well. So make sure you are subscribed to our channel, like this episode, and we'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.